Hi, and thanks for joining us here in Queenscliff on the entrance to Port Phillip Bay in Victoria, Australia. We're looking today at what the Harbour Pilot does. Basically, a Harbour Pilot is a licensed mariner who is licensed to guide ships in and out of particular harbours, in this case Port Phillip. Now, these vessels put out to sea and meet ships coming in as well as going out. So the pilot basically walks along the side rail here, hanging on, and parks himself on the bow, ready to clamber aboard the ship, even out in a rough sea. The ship's generally turned side on to shelter the pilot boat. We're going to climb up Queenscliff Tower, and the first thing we see is the Queenscliff to Sorrento ferry. Now, these ferries don't need pilots because the captains of these vessels are already licensed to operate in Port Phillip Bay. Okay, but the next thing we're going to see one of the pilot boats going out. So one of those vessels we saw at the beginning is now heading out, and we see some ships on the horizon. So they're obviously going to take pilots out to those vessels to guide them safely into the bay. And as he starts to clear the channel, he's really going to put on the pace. These are very powerful vessels and also very capable of handling big seas. Port Phillip Bay entrance is quite a dangerous area. On Bass Strait, it's quite challenging. With the weather here, we can see there is a bit of a southeasterly pushing through, which is building. You can't hear the sound, but it's actually whistling around the tower that I'm standing in at the moment. So he's heading out to sea, but it looks like he's put into the next pier just up the coast, where I assume he's possibly picking up one of the pilots who will be coming out. Now, we've actually noted that there are 3 ships coming in, and we'll see those shortly, so we have to assume there will be 3 pilots on board, one for each of those ships. And those pilots will actually take the ships right up to the dock in Melbourne or other ports within Port Phillip Bay. Okay, so now he's putting out to sea, and you'd have to have pretty good sea legs to operate in this boat. Okay, so he's going to now disappear behind the head there. And you can see on the horizon there is a ship. Looks like a car carrier, and which will be slowing down and to allow the pilot to actually come on board. And the pilot will then assume command of the ship and con the ship in through the harbour environment. Okay, so you can see the car carrier there, and lining up behind it is a large container ship as well. So that's 2 so far. The container ship looks like it's putting on power again, judging by the diesel coming out. We can also see with this car carrier coming in through the channel now, there is quite a strong side breeze, and it's pushing it over. It's sort of got a list of port there, obviously very high out of the water, so presenting quite a barrier against the wind. So here he comes now. Looks like the same shipping line of the ship that was actually captured in the Red Sea for having dealt with Israel, so it looks identical to this one. Coming in through the heads, it's quite a convoluted channel coming in, the sandbars and reefs that the pilot obviously is fully aware of as he creeps along the coast there, and going past Sorrento on the way into the bay. And here comes our next container ship lining up. Pilot will be on board already, and we can see another container ship beyond that as well. Back in the bay, there is a bulk carrier on the way out, plus a ferry coming towards us from Sorrento. So got a bit of a unique view of 3 vessels crossing over shortly. And you can see that the container ship coming in has got quite good speed going, obviously giving it a lot more manoeuvrability within these windy conditions in the channel. And there we go the ferry from Sorrento. Our bulk carrier and our car carrier are about to cross paths. And you'll notice basically that in shipping, in channels, etc., it's always keep right. Even though here in Australia we drive on the left, international shipping laws basically call for keeping to the right. Okay, so they've crossed over. Tide's on the way in too, so the ship going out is fighting the tide. And that's obviously why the ships coming in appear to be going a lot faster, because obviously they've got their own power plus the speed of the tide on top of that. Quite a few containers stacked on that one. Very narrow superstructure there, obviously to decrease any loss of deck space, which is obviously saleable space for containers, and we're here to make money, right? Okay, so this is the pilot boat now coming back. He's dropped off his 3 pilots to those vessels who just came in, and he'll be now returning to base. We didn't quite figure out how they get from Melbourne back to the base, but I'm sure they have a system in place for that. Okay, so those 3 pilots are now in the harbour. Job done as far as this one's concerned. Now, mindful of that bulk carrier that we see on the outbound, we'll also have a pilot on board. Just because the master's come in the harbour, it doesn't mean to say he knows how to get out of it, so the pilots will be used in both directions, in and outbound. Naturally, the pilot doesn't want to go for the whole trip, so another pilot boat is now going out and will actually be taking the pilot off the bulk carrier once they have cleared the harbour entrance. So a nice little wave to each other, no doubt. Now this, the yellow pilot boat going outbound is not in such a great hurry, because all he has to do is keep pace with the bulk carrier. He doesn't have to be out there to greet 3 ships which are coming in, like the previous pilot boat did. And this is the 3rd ship, the 2nd container ship that we saw, now making its entrance into the bay. And that southeasterly kicking through there. It's got a nice little bit of chop, which I imagine will actually be quite a large swell out beyond the heads. Obviously Bass Strait, which that piece of sea out there is a very rough piece of sea, basically lying across the roaring 40s. It's one of the first things hit by the Southern Oceans as it comes through. And here we have bulk carrier and that last container ship now about to cross paths here in the entrance to Port Phillip Bay. I hope you found this interesting. It's basically things that go on without us knowing about them. But yes, our harbours are a hive of activity, with a lot of very talented people making things possible every day of the week. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like, share, make a comment if you like, ask questions, and by all means subscribe. Thank you.